Check one, two. Angie here, back again with part two to my recovering from emotional abuse introduction. If this is your first time on my channel, thank you for stopping by. I truly appreciate you taking your time. And if you've been on my channel before, I truly appreciate you coming back. As always, I ask that you subscribe, turn on your notification bell so that you know when I make a new video. Like, comment. I just ask that you be respectful and share this video in case you think someone else can get something from this video. So I actually just finished recording part one of my introduction to recovering from psychological or emotional abuse. And there are just a few things that I want to expand on to make sure that I say um, that I talked about in the first video. So um, just wanted to get a little bit more into detail. So one of the first things that I wanted to talk about is the part where I said that once a person has five or more of the nine traits that would then get them diagnosed as a narcissist, they are considered to have a personality disorder, something that needs to be treated. One thing that I wanted to add about that, because, that is a mental disorder. And so, although as survivors and victims, and let me add my disclaimer from the first video, I'm not big on profanity, but every once in a while, I'm going to have to use it. So please excuse me. If you don't like profanity, it won't be a lot, I promise. But it is a mental disorder. It's considered a mental disorder. And I think that it's very difficult for survivors and victims to be told in telling their story and in their experience and what they've been through, which has been extremely difficult in situations with someone who probably would be diagnosed with this but has not been diagnosed. That we are being ableist and very insensitive to someone who has a personality disorder, an undiagnosed personality disorder, or even to assume that they have a personality disorder. And so, what I want to do is, I want to make sure that I make it clear that that's never my intention when I discuss emotional abuse, because that's what I'm calling it, is emotional abuse. I'm not qualified to diagnose anyone with a personality disorder. If you want the breakdown to everybody, some people, and narcissists, you need to go back and watch part one. But for the most part, I am talking about the experience of being emotionally abused and not necessarily someone being diagnosed. That's a whole different thing, okay? So I wanted to make sure I go on the record and say that, because I want to be careful. There are lots of mental health issues that people struggle with, and I'm very sensitive to that because I have had to work with and manage depression and anxiety myself. While those are not personality disorders, um, I've experienced people being insensitive about depression and anxiety. But I've also gone to get help. Okay. I want to get help for those aspects about myself. I want to make sure that I'm not affecting myself and others around me because of experiencing those chemical imbalances. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to say was about the part when I talked about when you don't tell anybody that you're going through these things with someone who's emotionally abusing you. So when you're loving and it's the beginning and everything's wonderful, you're sharing it, you're showing it, you're telling everyone. But that fateful moment where things just take a terrible turn and you really just don't even know what happened, you start to keep those kinds of things to yourself. And so the thing that I had wanted to add on about doing that is that they love the fact that you are a secret keeper. Once they realize that you will agree to keeping those moments and those incidences private and discreet, that just makes it even more better for them. It plays out in their favor. They're banking on that, okay, so that they can continue to behave the way that they're behaving towards you and not experiencing any consequences. Their reputation isn't getting ruined. No one's questioning if there's this great person that they're showing the rest of the world, but they're not that great person behind closed doors with you. So I want you to be very careful about, being a wonderful person in the world and holding things in confidence. There's a point where you can hold things in confidence, and it's something that will be to your detriment when you're in a situation of emotional and physical abuse, okay? So I wanted to say that they pretty much, once they realize that you'll keep that type of stuff to yourself, they are going to do more of it. So a lot of times I've seen people make the comment of, when they immediately hold a person accountable for behaving in these types of ways, that makes the person, I'm not saying they all stop, but it makes a person, they have to readjust, because their strategy is based around the fact that you won't say anything. So when you do say something, that makes them have to change things around. And it can make them decide you're not going to be a good supply. That's what you would want, so they could just walk right on out of your life. But not everyone would have that response. Some of them will just get back to the drawing board and just figure out a better way to manipulate you and make you a supply. The other thing that I wanted to expand on was about when you go into a situation genuinely loving another person, genuinely dating them, you get married, it's your family member, it's a friend, it's a business relationship. You go into it and you're very genuine about wanting to be, in a caring and supportive or loving position with this person, and then you find that they will do these insidious and diabolical things back towards you, even though you are being this great person towards them. I invite you to investigate that about yourself. So it goes back to the point that I made in part one about holding yourself accountable for what you allow. And so there's a term that I want to put in the description box on this video. Actually, we'll put it in the description box for both videos. Okay, I want to put all the terms in both places. I want you to look up the term codependency, and I want you to read on that to see if some of the things that describe codependency have anything to do with you and your behaviors. Because at the end of the day, there has to be accountability on why we would allow ourselves to continue in situations that are literally making our bodies warn us that it's not good, and we're just totally dismissing that. There has to be something going on with you, going on with your childhood, maybe your own traumas, that you need to look at and investigate. Because at the end of the day, a person who truly loves themselves would not allow a situation like that. And so you have to get back to loving yourself. And then when you love yourself, you most likely are not going to get involved with people who also don't love themselves, and then they treat other people poorly. So sometimes these situations, and this is tough to say, but I'm not saying this is across the board. This is not blanket. I'm not a clinician. I'm not a professional. I'm not the one that collects the statistics. What I'm trying to tell you is, from experience and hearing people say the same things that I've experienced, what I hear now that I've gotten the information, my understanding is that most of the time it's two people in a situation that have something going on with themselves that need attention separately. So they have something going on with themselves that causes them to mistreat people the way that they do. And then other people have something going on with themselves that they tolerate things that should not be tolerated. And there's a reason for that. So when you get two people with issues that are not resolved coming into a relationship, that's how you get these dramatic, chaotic, dangerous, damaging situations. Okay. So I really want you to take a deep breath and then really say, part of what I have to do at some point. It's not going to be initially, because initially all you care about is how this person is treating you, that it's wrong, that you don't feel safe, that the kids are being affected by it, that you're being affected by it. Initially, that is what you're going to go through. When you get past that, you need to look at yourself. So that way you can begin to work on yourself in the ways that will keep you from getting involved in these situations again. And this is my opinion. This is just my personal opinion. Where there's smoke, there's fire. If you're in a relationship, dating, marriage relationship with a person who behaves this way, more than likely you have people in your family that have behaved that way around you, and you've made friends with people who are behaving that way. Just check out the rest of your surroundings and your environment. I'm just saying it that way. That could just be the only person. And if it is, that's wonderful. But like I said, where there's smoke, there could be fire. Just check it out, okay, for yourself. The other thing that I wanted to say was about how if someone is high up there on the spectrum where they're in the group of the some who have an excessive and extreme behavior behind their self, um, and then you have people who could be clinically diagnosed as narcissists. A lot of times they will not see anything wrong with their behavior because on their end of their behavior, things are working out for them. People are listening to them, people are doing what they say, people are scared of them. Okay. They're not getting terrible blowback, at least not to them. They're not experiencing something terrible on their side of the behavior. It's the person who's receiving the behavior that's getting all the terrible feelings and everything. So they don't feel like there's a reason to go see a clinician or a professional. And then if they do, they have to get in there and tell the truth, and they most likely won't do that because generally people who have these type of behaviors, they like to lie. And then if they can go in there and attempt to be honest, you have to also now worry if they will be in there manipulating the therapist. And a lot of therapists are definitely skilled. I love Dr. Romani. Most people know about her in the emotional abuse community. Everyone knows Dr. Romani gives out a lot of great information. There's a lot of other people that I would be here all day trying to name, but she's like one of the main people that I got a lot of information from. And so, when they're very skilled, they can recognize that. But then, at the end of the day, the person still has to continue therapy. So, you get them in there and they go through 1, 2 appointments and then they come out and they try to say, I went to therapy. Hey, I'm much better. I understand. I have empathy for you now. And then, they'll put on their little mask and they'll play along with what they know to do, how they acted when they first got involved with you. They'll, do all the different things that people do when they love bomb. They gaslight you. They ignore your boundaries. They project. They nitpick. They'll get back to all the things that they know to keep you as a supply, and then you'll start feeling bad all over again, and it just becomes a vicious cycle. Okay. And so the other thing I wanted to bring up is when I said about how you will change yourself, you will love more, you will do more, you will give more, all in an effort to think that if you keep doing these things, that you will make this person go back to how they were when you first got involved with them and when they were treating you nicely, when they made you feel good. You think that there is something that you can do to make that all come back, and how that really ends up being a waste of your time because they drain you. Anything that you do, there's a resistance from them about it. And so the more you try to give or explain or convince, You will meet with debate, more mind games. You'll feel drained. You'll give up. They'll get their way, and it becomes a vicious cycle again. I think I'm going to be doing this a lot in these videos, okay? Um, the other thing I wanted to talk about was the way that they want to get to know you. It feels so good to have someone that's inquisitive. Look at me, I love to talk, right? So I can sit with somebody and I can think that they're just asking me questions because they're inquisitive and they're interested in me and they want to get to know me. You don't realize that not everyone is a non-toxic person when they're doing that. Some people are. They're just having conversation with you because they're just having conversation. You work at the same job, you're waiting in the same line, so on and so forth. But there is a different type of person now that we're talking about when they're emotional abusers and you're involved in a relationship with them somehow, whether it's family, friend, dating, marriage, business. um, these types of conversations are not just innocent conversations. These conversations become intel. And if you know what the word intel means, that means it's when someone's pretty much making a file about who you are so that they can use that information at a later date to control you, to manipulate you, to blackmail you emotionally. And so you think that they're so interested. And once they get you in that vulnerable, comfortable space with them, you're just spilling all the beans. You're just telling them everything. You're telling them even the things that would hurt you. And I have experienced that in several different ways. I mean, I literally regret some of the stuff that I shared. And it wasn't because it was anything embarrassing or anything like that. It was just very sensitive stuff. It was very tender stuff that I had been through that I felt like this person made me safe enough to feel like they, could hold that information in confidence and support me on it. And really they were just holding on to it so that at a later date they can bring it up and use it against me. Also, what they do when they're having these conversations with you is they'll share something very low stakes or made up. Stop thinking these people are not just making up stuff. They might have an aunt that never really existed. Okay, they will share something low stakes, personal with you, or something completely made up, so that they look like here's something vulnerable about me. So you tell me something vulnerable about you. And that's how they get intel and information about you to use on you later. So one of the things I've had to tell myself going into developing, relationships with new people is that I have to take my time. I want to see what someone's intentions are with me. And if someone has bad intentions with me, they'll get frustrated that I'm taking too long to want to call them anything, to call them my friend, to call them my man, to call them, anything of a significant title that these people love to rush into getting. They love you to give them a special title, or they love to have a special title because if they're in your family, then they're already your sibling and they're already your parent or they're already your grandparent, okay? They love using the special title as a way to disarm you and get you to give chances and get you to trust so that they don't have to work too hard for you to be their supply. And the last thing that I wanted to say was there's a long term effect. So even after your family may suggest, with their limited support, you're out of the situation now, or go on with your life, move on with yourself. People don't understand that there's a long term effect to having been involved in situations where essentially everything that you were involved in with this person was genuine from your side, but made up from theirs. It was all just a facade. It was all fake. It was all phony. It was all fantasy. They sold you fantasy. In those conversations, they listened to your perfect mate and they became that. They listened to what you felt would be the greatest friend, or they just mirrored you and they were giving you yourself. And of course, like I said, we're all on that spectrum. We all admire ourselves. We all love ourselves. And so they could also just give you yourself and you'll fall in love with them from that. But on their end, there was nothing genuine going on. It was all manipulation for them to get what they wanted, which was their way, which serves them and their feeling of entitlement, being superior over you, not having any empathy, not caring about your feelings, not concerned about your happiness, and definitely not putting any of your needs before theirs or anywhere at all. They don't care about your needs, they just care about their own. And so I just wanted to expand on those different aspects from my first video. So definitely turn on your notification bell because I'm going to be doing more videos on this topic of recovering from emotional abuse. I'd love to talk more about it from the perspective of codependency. I love to talk about it from the perspective of when it's your family, when it's a friend, when it's someone that you've dated or you're married to, when you have to parallel parent because you cannot co-parent with difficult people like this. And I hate that I just said that. They're not just a difficult person. It's beyond difficult person. The categories that I named of everyone and some and then narcissists, some people fall in the category of difficult. Some people are just difficult. You can kind of figure out a way sometimes around that. But when you're dealing with somebody who really has a personality disorder, you have to parallel parent, and that is extremely difficult, especially when you have concerns about safety. So that's all I wanted to say. I want to go ahead and dive into those different aspects. Welcome you to come back if this is a topic that is a part of your life. If it's not, please don't watch the videos. Seriously, just don't watch them because I wouldn't want somebody to come in and be insensitive to people who are survivors and victims. I will block and delete any rude or insensitive comments. It's not about people agreeing with me. I'm not looking to be agreed with. I really honestly have done so much work on myself. I really don't care what anyone thinks anymore. And that's another thing. They love that you care about what they think. You have to start realizing that you have more power than you realize. That is why they wanted you for a supply. Okay? There's a reason. There's something about you that's very special. And being involved with them, they're snuffing the life out of you. So, for those folks who don't understand, I really would appreciate it if they don't come on and be insensitive. So, if you have a comment, please make it, but don't be insensitive. So, that's all. That's all I wanted to share to conclude this part 2 of my introduction on emotional abuse. And I will talk to you again soon. Bye bye.